Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Metal video. In this video we are going to take a look at the Extreme Z battle, or the Extreme Z Awakenings for the Dragon Ball Heroes unit. So quite a few units got Extreme Z Awakenings from this. So I'm going to go through those units first. And if you want to obviously see the team I use, you can skip a little bit ahead. But essentially, only Dragon Ball Heroes units are effective against this Extreme Z battle. There's no real types given because you will basically be fighting every single one of these units throughout the event. So the type is going to change quite a bit. They exchange every 4 or 5 levels. You'll be receiving 2 Grand Kais of each type as well. But for the most part, yeah. You're going to have to find the Kais yourself really to get these guys to max SA. We have Darkness Toa as one of the first units to receive an Extreme Z Awakening. She gets a pretty good Extreme Z Awakening, essentially just like most of them, getting increased stats, which is good for the most part, and obviously just essentially enabling her to function as a unit in the current meta. We get Baby Janemba, also another interesting unit, imagining of a fusion between Janemba and Baby, or fusion in inverted commas. But yeah, the highly evasive unit, very good defensively, high levels of evasion. Only really going to struggle in events where evasion gets locked out at the final stage, but still a very interesting unit. We then have Boo Babidi, or Kid Boo fused with Babidi, again, not fusion, more inverted commas and absorption, but essentially acts as a support or a pseudo support depending on your health levels, either a very good defensive support or an attack based support. We have a stacking unit in the form of Super Paikuhan, obviously probably one of the first and only units to ever be able to pair with Paikuhan, so that's going to be very interesting from that aspect. We have the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks, who gets a very good passive effect, essentially a stacking unit in terms of his attack. He'll gain little bits of extra attack depending on how many times he takes an attack and fires one. He also has a high chance to guard, which makes him very good defensively and stacks his attack and defense over multiple turns. We then have Super Saiyan 3 Gohan, the more offensive orientated Super Saiyan 3 unit, I'd like to say, compared to Trunks, and also comes with a seal. And then we also have SS3 Gotenks, which is a pretty good unit, but again follows the kind of trend of Gotenks units. So having that stacking attack and defense for a couple turns, having that limited level of attacks effective against all types and things like that. So yeah, very chances of firing additional super attacks. Very interesting unit. We then have missions, quite a few missions, but essentially they just amount to awakening the units for their first steps and then awakening them for their last steps, and you'll get a stone for each one. So it's going to depend entirely on how many of those units you have. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this will appeal mainly to veteran players. So new players doing this EZA, I mean, you can do the EZA for the stones. You should always do the EZA for the stones. But it's very difficult to get hero banner units once they're off the banner. So you're going to struggle to get heroes units once they are off of the banner, because then they fall into the general pool, and it's quite hard to pick up general pool heroes units because one, you're always guaranteed a featured unit, and secondly also because you're guaranteed a featured unit, the chances are the other SSRs you pull will also be featured units because they just have a higher drop rate at 5% than 3%. So it is quite difficult to actually pick them up when they're off the banner, which means for the most part, if you don't have those units, you probably won't be getting them anytime soon unless you summon massively on the banners. However, you can still farm the stones with a Dragon Ball Heroes lineup, and there's a couple of free-to-play units you can use for that. You'll see I incorporate them later. I mainly use ARMS and the Great Saiyaman 5 or 4 unit, and those are essentially the units I mainly use. However, of course, you can use whichever unit you want. Poutine's also a great unit, but I didn't have her farmed at the time of filming this video, so she's also a very good option. Because Dragon Ball Heroes are also the most effective category, you can use units like Friendly Trunks, going to be one of your better units for it. It's a very difficult EZA to explain, or Extreme Z Battle to explain, because the units will change so often, and I didn't feel it's necessary to put all the units in. I didn't feel it was necessary to show you a stage of every single unit, because honestly the trend remains the same. They will get slightly progressively stronger, but for the most part, much like the Dragon Ball FighterZ EZA, it's been balanced for players who are not going to have a lot of dupes in their units. So I did this with my units, plus 2 free-to-play units that I've incorporated into the team. You'll see them now. And it was relatively easy. There wasn't really any stage. I was taking, like Arms, for example, is an AGL unit, and he was taking attacks and super attacks from Teen Gotenks, who's a tech unit for the final area or the last couple stages of the Extreme Z Battle, and he was still doing perfectly fine. So yeah, the event is just so rapidly changing. From my side, there's no real need to show you guys every single fight. You don't need a guide on how to take on each individual fighter in this Extreme Z Battle, because honestly speaking, you can use the same team to take them all out. It's just going to affect how quickly you do so, depending on what types you have in the team. So if you really want to do things super quick, change your team up for every single person you face and put in type advantage units. Otherwise, you can just keep the same team like I did, and you will get there as well, probably just slightly slower, or maybe the same, because the amount of time it'll take to change your team up every time will also take more time. So yeah, we'll cut across now to stage 20, and we'll take a look there and see how things are. But again, nothing too much I believe will change. We're obviously fighting a different enemy now, and they are immune to sealing and stunning as per most Extreme Z battles. So yeah, relatively straightforward system here. They're going to change and alternate, so just change your team accordingly if you want to, or keep the same team. But yeah, like I said, it's more difficult to get these units because obviously you would have had to kind of be there where they were featured on the banner. There are some recovery banners like the Extreme Z Awakening banner, which is currently out, and you can get some of these units from there at a great discount, 30 stones as well, and it guarantees one of them. We'll take a look at the ones I do have. I have 3 of them. I have Darkness Toa, I have Super Saiyan 3 Gohan, and I have Super Saiyan 3 Trunks. And we'll be able to take a look at those, but without being able to get the other ones, it's going to be quite difficult to look at their EZAs as well. Of course, you know, the stones you get for EZAing those units is 1 per unit from the missions, so you should still be doing this event and getting the 30 free stones from finishing the event, because that's the big additional stone amount that you can get. So yeah, I would definitely suggest still doing the event. It's definitely still worth doing for the stones. It will be 100% worth it for you. 30 stones is great. Even if you're not going to spend it on the Heroes banner, you should still be farming these stones. If you don't have any Heroes units, you have 5 free-to-play units. So if you can come up with some kind of lead for your team, you might be able to run it. That being said, it is going to be somewhat difficult if you don't have some kind of lead. Even 130%, 120%, which there are quite a few leads of those now, will be better than nothing. So maybe even just summoning once on the Heroes banner, if you're looking for some kind of lead, will help you. Otherwise, you can just use Poutine as your lead, and just obviously YOLO someone into the final slot that's maybe super defensive or something against each type of hero, and you can obviously try and make your team work that way. But we'll move on to stage 30. Obviously this will be against the Gotenks Teen. As mentioned before, Arm is kind of the biggest weak point here because he's a free-to-play character that is AGL type. We shouldn't have too many issues though in terms of difficulty with this part of the stage. Pretty much just sailed through the entire stage so far, so from my end I don't foresee it being a problem. But of course, you know, if you are struggling, just switch Arm out for something else, maybe Comba, maybe Poutine, and you'll have a much easier time than I am having here. But yeah, realistically, a very chilled Extreme Z battle. basically free 30 stones for people who've summoned a couple times on the heroes banners. And yeah, obviously the easy A's are cool. I think they're great, but they're only going to be worth if you have the units, but the stones are always worth it anyway. You can also choose units like Toa as your friend lead. She's obviously in type, although she doesn't shuck as much damage, nearly as much damage as the God Trunks. So I would still probably just go for God Trunks just because of his tremendous damage output. But yeah, you could also use SS for Vegeta. I mean, you can use whoever you want out of the friends leads. Mecha Dabura, SS for Vegeta, Dabura, Toa. You can use any of them. It's not too important. Just obviously make sure that you do not have, any units that don't fall under that lead in your team. Or if you do, those units are super defensive or evasive or something, just so that they don't get hit by attacks. Like, for example, someone like Hercule, who just evades units all the time. Stuff like that, probably for the best. But there we go, we've completed stage 30. Relatively simple task. Honestly, the Extreme Z battle, I cannot stress this enough, is not like remotely tuned or built for people who have units with dupes or anything. It is essentially a free ride if you have just a couple Dragon Ball Heroes units. And yeah, that's it for the Dragon Ball Heroes edition. You could probably farm the stage if your Dragon Ball Heroes team is good enough. I do not see why not. It really posed no real problem to me whatsoever. And you, of course, have your missions. So we'll just go through the units one more time, just so you can see all the units at EZA from here super briefly. Darkness Toa, then we have Baby Janemba, then we have Boo Kid Babidi, Super Paiku Han, SS3 Trunks, SS3 Gohan, and SS3 Gotenks. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So thanks guys for watching. Leave a comment if you liked the video or if you have any questions, and of course I will see you guys in the next one. So stay safe, take care, and bye.